Okay, so we've been in discussing the Lam Rim, talking about the section on impermanence and death, and how remembering death gives meaning to our life because it reminds us that we're not always going to be here, and so it acts as a mirror, asking to ask ourselves, what am I doing that's important? And it also puts us in the mental space of thinking, well, what happens at the time of death, and how do we want to die, and what happens after death, and where do we want to be reborn after death. And so that meditation on impermanence and death is very helpful for really making us think deeply about our life. So yesterday we talked about how death is definite, and then today we'll talk about how the time of death is indefinite. So we may know that we're going to die, but we always think later, 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 later. It doesn't happen to me, or if it happens to me, not now, not today, or if it happens to the people I love, not now, later, later, later. And so it's so strange because this, our ignorance about this is so strong that when somebody dies, we're always very shocked. Even if somebody's been very ill and in the hospital for a long time, when they die, we're always still surprised somehow. And yet if we really reflect on the fact that, we're, as human beings, we're caused phenomena, then anything that has a cause is going to change, and when the causal energy stops, then the result stops, and so this life is going to stop, and our consciousness will go on into the next body. So the 3 points under the time of death is indefinite is that people are always in the middle of doing something when they die. So, we have this thing of, okay, well, maybe I'm going to die someday, but first I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and there's all these fun things to do, and all these things to experiences, and traveling to do, and things to learn, and people, and this and that, and I'll do all of those, and then sometime when it's convenient, then I'll die. But it doesn't happen like that, does it? Death death just comes whenever. It's just there. And, people are always in the middle of doing something. Some are in the middle of eating, some are in the middle of walking, some are in the middle of just breathing, and, and it stops. Okay? And then the second point under that is that it takes a lot of energy to keep our body alive, but very little for it to die. In other words, look at what we have to do all day long to keep this organism alive. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Because you have to get food, and you have to clean it, and you have to keep it healthy, and you have to do this and that. So it takes a lot of energy to keep the body alive, whereas if we did nothing, if we just sat there, eventually the life would stop, And then the third point under that is that even very small things can cause the end of our life. Just a small virus, a small bacteria, a small piece of something in the wrong part of our body, and there goes our life. So when we think about this, and it's very good to make examples of people and the different ways in which they've died and what's caused their death, and how were they prepared at the time of death, and it's very good to think about these things and then say, well, if death came to me today, am I ready? Or am I just going to go on big freak out saying, I don't want to die? But saying I don't want to die, who are you going to complain to? Yeah, and what are you going to do? There's no way to stop it when it's happening. So the idea is to be ready for death, and we become ready for death by practicing the Dharma, by releasing our ignorance, anger, and clinging attachment, because it's those things that are going to make the dying process difficult, when people don't have ignorance, anger, and attachment, dying is, you know, they say it's like going on a picnic. There's no problem. They have a good time. Yeah. So it's, you know, understanding that the time of death is indefinite really makes us wake up and think about what's important in our life and to prepare for our death.